Business over drinks. Business over drinks. This is Dave and Tom. This is Business Over Drinks.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Over Drinks. My name is Teng and I'm calling in from Singapore.
And my name is David. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm calling in from busy Brizzy. Did I say busy Brizzy? From Brisbane, Australia. It's getting cold here, so I'm wearing a sweater. And we have a very interesting guest tonight. He's a good friend, buddy, and amazing person I also work with here and there. And his name is Shaneal Sharma. So Shaneal is a technology visionary and inventor of patented property technology, Transactor, which has transacted over 6 billion worth of real estate. Not that much. His skill set and talent was developed early in his career in the entertainment industry. Based between LA, UK, and Asia, he produced, wrote, and performed as a recording artist, scoring 4 top 10 global hits while simultaneously building software and investing in property. He worked with major companies such as Universal, Warner, ABC, MGM, and Sony as a songwriter and producer. He's collaborated with artists and producers such as DJ Carl Cox, Malik Youssef, Kanye, Maroon 5, Elton John, Jack Knight, who's also helped with Kanye, Usher, J-Lo, Puff Daddy, as well as Grammy Award winner Nile Rodgers, who's helped with Pharrell, Duran Duran, Chick, Madonna, and more. So Shaneal has also been buying property for over 20 years. And just last year, he was involved with an IPO, which we'll talk about soon. But obviously, as usual, Teng and I have invited people who are much more talented than we are. So welcome to the show, Shaneal. How you doing, man?
Wow, man, that's a great wrap. Thanks for having me, guys. What's happening? What's the latest greatest in Singapore? How's it all going in Singapore?
It's very hot. It's not a lockdown. They don't officially call it lockdown, but we are restricted in our movements a little bit, and there's no dining in, all this stuff. Shaneal, I got a question. How does it feel to be just really not achieve much in your life over the last 20 years? You haven't done anything, man. What the hell?
Terrible, man. I know, right? It's just one of those things, man. It's you got to shake the cobwebs out, So
yeah, I think you need to work harder.
Yeah,
especially fresh from an IPO.
Yeah, one IPO, only one. Jesus. Oh,
I know. Hey, we got to keep working, babe.
All right, man. No, I'm really happy you decided to join us, man. It's gonna be a really good podcast.
So before we get into our drink, so Shaneal is actually a really awesome property investor. That's really a really simplistic adjective for what I just said. But yeah, he's a great property investor, and a few people who listen to our podcast have requested we do a real estate type of episode. So the first half of the show will be about real estate related questions, and then the rest will be about life, accomplishing great stuff like Shaneal's doing, starting an app, and so forth. So we hope you enjoy.
Yep. And before we get into that, let's just talk about alcohol. Dave, why don't you tell us what you're drinking, man?
So I'm drinking the same gin as we had in our last episode with the gin expert Tim, and it's from Edinburgh Gin Distillery. It's an elderflower liqueur, and it's really good. It's sweet, has a bit of a candy flavor to it, and it's really easy to drink. So I'm gonna have a few bottles over the next few weeks.
All right, Dave's an alcoholic. Shaneal, what about yourself?
Well, look, to be full transparency, I don't always drink. I only drink when there's something to celebrate. So this is a celebratory day. And look, I love my Japanese whiskeys. I am today. I'm just going for something really refreshing because it's actually warm winter's day, funnily enough, and I've just added some dry right here, and it's the Suntory whiskey, which is the Toki, which is just a nice little drop. And a little bit of ice and some dry. Generally, I normally drink whiskey neat, but today I'm just feeling like a bit of ginger. And there we have. So salute to everybody. Come by.
Salute. Do you recommend it, by the way? Because I've been thinking about buying that.
Oh, it's amazing. It is really nice. It's smooth, and it's got the caramel tones coming through, and it's just a beautiful little drink.
Yeah,
lovely. For those who don't know, dry is usually ginger ale, and it's a really good way to have a whiskey. All right, I'm drinking a Suntory Strong Zero. This was given to me by Suntory, and I appreciate it. Dave didn't get any, so that's all I wanted to mention. I've drunk this on many other podcasts before, so you guys have seen me drink this quite a lot and heard me talk a lot about it. But yeah. All right, Dave, do you want to jump straight into the questions?
Yeah, sure. So starting with real estate, so, stocks versus real estate, that I'm a bit of an investor in both, but share investors say they prefer stocks because they don't need, these huge deposits. They don't have to incur years of debt as well as expenses involved with a piece of real estate. As a real estate investor yourself, Shaneal, what are some pros for real estate? Why should someone consider it as their in their portfolio?
Gotcha. So I think to start off with, I'm going to flip it on its head. And I believe, well, we're actually asking the wrong question. The question should be, what is the entry point? You only make your mass gains from the purchase price, similar to a stock. So for example, a stock over here that, I invested in, which was $13, which was Afterpay. And we all know the price is north of $100. I'm not going to open up the can of worms about cryptos. I'm just going to stay with the stock versus property question. And it's the same thing with real estate, whereby, if you put in larger amounts, you can get larger gains, but you can also get losses. Now, I guess and that's why I'm sort of flipping on its head and saying we've got to think about it in the way of, absolutely now, like, properties are the highest they've ever been in value and price, but that's from a macroeconomics disposition. So we need to break that down. We will later. But right now, if I'm looking at stocks versus real estate, it is all comes back down to the appetite that you have to invest. So you're right in saying that, I can go and buy some stocks. I can put $2,000 here, $10,000 here, $1,000 and buy some stocks, or I can, save up for a deposit. And again, in both of those situations, it's about studying the company. I mean, how many people have actually picked the phone up and rang the company and spoken to the receptionist and then get put through to, hey, I want to talk to the procurement. I want to know, oh, you've got any jobs going? Oh yeah, we're hiring. So it's about, I'm getting pretty into the micro, but if I'm buying a stock versus real estate, I really need to know about the management. I need to know more information, because then I can then understand, and is that company going to be around for 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And is it going to keep, amplifying the growth, month on month, year on year? And is it going to keep compounding versus real estate? Now, we've all heard the story about real estate back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, where it's like, oh yeah, back then it was $12,000. 10 years later, it was $100,000, and then 100, and then 100 and 100 and 100 every decade. So if you look at, and it doesn't matter where you go, we've all heard that. So the bottom line is that, are you, like you say that, if you're a stock person or a real estate person, so in my opinion, absolutely, it's all comes down to your appetite and what you can afford. And I think to diversify would be the key. And then how do you get to that? So for example, the place that I'm in right now, people said there's no way you're going to be able to buy an Ascot for under $700,000. We're going back, sort of 2006. I door knocked every single house in the area until I found one. And it just so happened that the people had to get out. They were urgent and they needed a deal within the week, right? Timing, hard work, resilience, perseverance, and just going through and just when you really want something, you'll go and get it. The purchase price was lower because I was able to do a deal quick. And then how did I get the money to that? Well, I did save up and I had other deals, but it wasn't the first property that I bought. But the point is that you make your return in the purchase. Same thing with a stock. You buy it at the low and then you ride it. So again, when you're looking at the pros and the cons, I wouldn't set yourself up to be rigid into one or the other. I think that you should maybe fuse it together and go, okay, have a portfolio of, if it's stocks, and then you've got some, like I'm looking at some of my stocks, and I'll be honest with you, out of like say 6 of the ones that I have, 4 are performing really well, but then 1 is actually bringing my overall my stock holding, it's bringing my P&L down a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But then I've had ones that have like outshone everything, and it saved the day, if that makes sense, because I've spread it into various stocks. So I think the point really is that, you know, with stocks, yes, you can get a more cost-effective entry point, but it depends who you're talking to, because, you know, I know people that put $1 million worth of stocks, you know, $500,000 worth of stocks, and then, you know, so it just depends on what your appetite is and the return that you want. And no one has that crystal ball. No one can guarantee anything, because this market is moving. It's very dynamic, especially with all of a sudden there's a lockdown. And it's just reported today, Melbourne real estate has now come down because of lockdown. It's just a response to what's happening, you know, with lockdown. It's affecting the market. So, and it's not dissimilar to stocks. Stocks are being affected as well, because you've got performing outcomes that you need to look at. So I think we really need to look at what the appetite is, first of all. And then if you can create a strategy where the stock can end up buying or paying for the deposit to actually purchase the property, now you're cleverly, you know, diversifying. And, you know, you shouldn't just have the money sitting in the bank. You should definitely look at investing it, and you can go for blue chips that are safe bets as well. So I'm not a financial planner, so I'm just flagging that. There's no advice here, but the point is that it really comes down to appetite. Now, just remember, and I can talk for Australia here. In Australia, there are areas that you can pay 450 to 500,000 house and land today, and you can do that with a $15,000 deposit, right? So that exists. It's here. It's now $15,000. So if you can't save $15,000, then you need to get up your ass and start working and save it. That's the answer to people who talk about, you know, how do you, oh, well, I don't have the money. Well, then get up your ass and work 20 hours like I've done and like you guys have done, right? So, you know, that's really the key thing that I have to say about stocks versus real estate and the preference. My preference is actually both, and for various reasons. And I've had great wins in stocks, and I've had amazing wins in property. So that's me personally. So I hope that gives it some color.
Yeah, no, I think that was quite comprehensive, man. I just want to go back real quick to when you talk about 20 hours. Dave doesn't work 20 hours. So let's just be real.
It's a good 1 hour week.
Yeah, Dave's
If
like
has a 4 hour week. I thought I'd beat him with a 1 hour week.
yeah, 1 hour is a generous time frame for you, Dave. Shaneal, what's your opinion on? So have you done any investing outside of Australia, like property investing outside of Australia and stuff?
Yes. So I've actually invested in the States yesterday, so Los Angeles. I've invested in technologies as well. And so, you know, my experience has been, and the same fundamentals apply. You know, you buy something for as least as possible, and then you essentially add as much value to that, in this case, property, as you can, to get a return that is going to outweigh, you know, your if there's a loan repayment, rates, taxes, etc. So that's really the fundamental. That's the key. And unless you, and sometimes the market takes a bit of time to catch up to that. But then there's also where, like in the States, for example, you may have a property, literally similar sort of properties, and you got one going for 1 million, and right next door it's going for 5 million. And it's like, what is going on? Oh, that's because Charlie Chaplin lived there. You've got anomalies that occur in the valuation process.
And are there any things you should look out for, like wherever you're in the world when thinking of buying property? Are there certain factors you should look out for example, amenities, quality of property, and so forth?
So look, you know, we always used to say that, you know, you got to be near universities. And right now, I mean, I don't know if you guys know about what's happening in the future, but Harvard, your Stanfords, like all your top universities are, there's already talk on, you know, everything being beamed and, you know, being all online. For example, the best professors on the planet, access to the best mentors on the planet, all from your living room, and still getting your degree without even traveling, and essentially learning from the best of the best, which is amazing. So my point is that amenities, what I look for personally in property is, I look at school catchment areas, I look at shopping centers, I look at, you know, who doesn't want to walk out of their amazing house that's secured, walk down the road, take a left, take a right, and then all of a sudden you've got a cafe, have a coffee, go to the bakery, have a croissant, you know, head out to the gym, do some yoga, probably not all at the same time, but, you know, get some ramen noodles, and then, you know, come back and maybe drive a car and then head out, jump into the airport and go for a swim and whatever. The point is that it's walkability, livability, affordability, access to, you know, markets, shopping complexes. And probably the things that I don't like is, for example, you know, you wouldn't want to live near a very, very busy road where it's just really, really loud and blasting, and all you can hear is traffic and fumes and dust. So for me personally, I always look for a house that's a couple of streets in and it's protected. I like north facing houses and east facing houses so that when the sun comes up, it feels good, and then it, you know, it sets on the west. So I always look at that. I always look at what's the street like, what are the people like, you know, because you obviously don't want to have some certain crackheads. um, and
That
you
sounds
know,
like a Brisbane problem, man. That sounds like a Brisbane problem.
yeah, definitely a Brisbane problem.
On Singapore. This is I want to make a comment about Singapore. They're
Yeah,
like nothing.
yeah. How many
nothing-
crackheads do you find in Singapore, man? Like
Yeah, 'cause
one, like
they're all
one.
dead.
Yeah, they're all dead. There's like one.
So, but you know what I'm saying, right? So,
Mm.
so that's what I look for in property. And so, and you can do that in, like, when you've got microeconomics and macro as a whole. Um, you can find that in many different areas. You just got to know the area, and it might be a smaller version of that. So instead of like a big shopping center, it might be a little food hawkers area. That's like, you know, it all starts off with one little guy. So I mean, over here there's like this one little Vietnamese restaurant, and then all of a sudden there was an Italian restaurant that opened, and then all of a sudden there was a Thai restaurant, then all of a sudden a massage uh, day spa opened up, and it just, and then all of a sudden, like, one guy did this amazing renovation, then the next family did the renovation, and the next, and then there was a childcare center. Then all of a sudden there was a community, and that happened over a 5-year period, right? So it's just about picking, and if it follow the energy, if it feels good, and you can afford it, in the sense that, you know, you got to look at what is the affordability. There's no point going paycheck to paycheck, because you're going to be screwed. You know what I mean? So, and when we're talking about the 20 hours earlier, you put in the time to get to certain targets and goals. It doesn't mean you have to do 20 hours every single day of your life, but you do have to grind. And, you know, and I hate when people say work smart, not hard. You got to do both, man. You got to work hard and smart, because hard is the velocity that you're putting down, pedal to the metal, and going, I'm going to crush it and do these things. And then you execute. The sooner you execute, the sooner you get closer to moving the needle and getting to those targets. You know what I mean? So that's really, really important. They go hand in hand. So like looking for what to look for in a property comes back down to attaining that property, which comes down to your work ethic and your discipline to actually finding that thing. And when you make your mind up and you go, you know what, I'm actually going the other way. Like, I'm in the most prestigious area in our city, in Brisbane. It's called Ascot and Hamilton. And I'm now looking for lots of land. But I'm looking in areas like Shayla Park. And for those of you that don't know, that in Queensland, in Brisbane, there's like this area. It's like half an hour to the city, half an hour to the Gold Coast. It's right near the hinterland. And you can get 2,000 square meters of land and a funky little 4-bedroom house for $600,000. That is cheap. You can have a veggie patch and 4-car lockup garage, and you can do whatever you want. That is really cheap, and that exists today, right now. So that's what I'm doing next. And then I can get, like, for this property that I'm in now, I can get, you know, $2,600 a week rent, which is really good money, and that's going to pay for my other house and then some. So, you know, these are the kind of decisions we need to make. And it's not about going more. It's about going, I'm doing well, as in you're doing well, you're getting to, but the problem is that we keep wanting more and trying to get bigger. And bigger isn't always better. You can still get like my last property I had a 4-level house. It was massive. And I was like, okay, now I've done that. the next one was like, let's go a bit smaller, still nice, great fixtures and fittings. But if you were to do a heat map on a property, I was spending most of my time in the kitchen, in the lounge room, and in the
Toilet.
den. Yeah, exactly. On the toilet, but all the other rooms, like no one was touching it. And it was like, well, what's the point? And then you keep thinking of resale. But the point is that now people have their main areas that they focus on living in. So you build that as in your investment. If you're looking at building or buying, you build that and you double down on that and you make that look really good and you invest in that. And that's how you get your returns for later, because if you like it, there's always that the next person that's going to buy if you were looking at selling would want it. So yeah, I always like look at the fixtures and fittings and features in the house, and then I look at those amenities. That's really what I like doing.
Shaneal, I got to follow up on that because I know that you lived in Singapore. We spoke about it in the pre-discussion, right? Yeah. And so you know how Singapore's layout is. You know how crazy their real estate is in Singapore. Oh, yeah. And I'm assuming you don't invest here, right?
No, it's been a long time since I've been. When I say long time, it was pre-COVID, just before COVID. But not buying. But I do remember all the leasehold stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy here. I mean, what advice would you give someone who lives in a country like Singapore, like Hong Kong's like that, like very, very dense populated areas with really high value property? And I mean, you were talking about how you're looking at places that are developing, right? So a house that you buy in, for example, in Brisbane, you could create a community around it. It could be worth from like 500,000 to like 1.5 mil in 5-6 years, right? Because things grow, things improve, you get priced.
Absolutely.
There. In Singapore, it's kind of different. Like the price goes crazy, but
yes,
I mean we're looking at something as insane as, I don't know, like you pay $1 million. Like the place I'm staying in now, the actual price to buy this house I'm renting, but price to buy this house is about $1 million. $1 million, roughly $1 million US. It's 750 square feet, right? Which is tiny, right? Yeah. And it's an apartment block. But everything in Singapore is next door to something. It's next door to like public transport, is next door to childcare centers, is next door to cafes, is next door to everything. Singapore is so dense like that, right? Like what sort of advice would you give someone there? Because it's a little bit difficult to understand and build that type of community and like understand the value that you're going to grow, because Singapore is different, right?
I would do, and I lived right next to Isitan on Cavanagh Road, so I know, and I was there for some time. Now, and I got to jump in the MRTs and head out to all the various areas as well. What I would say to that is that I would say that, again, it just comes back down to fundamentals of, okay, so if you are going to buy something, how do you make that particular condo or unit that you're in better and more special than the one near it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a renovation. That could be, like you may buy a couple, you may go with some friends and go, look, there's 4 in a row. They're looking at selling. And then you might go underneath it and put a yoga studio and be a bit more creative. So, and creative means getting some resources and going, you know what, we're going to do something special in this little pocket, and we're going to get an architect and we're going to activate it and gentrify it again.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have a certain color scheme, some landscaping that you may do where you're dressing up something that's tired. And look, shout out to Ong and Ong Architects in Singapore that do some great work that I met back in the day. They were going around gentrifying areas, and they've been doing that for like, 30-something years in Singapore. And so I think creatively, like, yes, you can go buy the brand new condo and spend the 3 million, or you can spend, like you said, the 800 to a million plus, and actually get a bigger place. But then you can look at renovating that, because as long as the bones are good and it's going to stack up. But then you also have to look at the body corporate and what are their expenses. So, and as you know, there are certain areas that will always do better than others. And it's just about where you think. So you just, if you tick it off, like, is there some sort of a view? Tick. Is there, like, how's it configured? Is it configured well that if I just change the tiles and do the kitchen up, that it's going to look amazing? So you still, what's the access like? Can I park my car easier if I've got a car? Can I get up the stairs and the lift? Like, what is that looking like? So you can still look at those little bits and pieces when you're making a decision on where to invest and to, if you're creative and you've got the right talents around you, like your tilers, a designer, sometimes it's like knocking a wall down, which can open up and create a whole new world. As long as you're not, as long as you're consulting the engineer, it's not going to affect the property. Sometimes some party walls on the internal, you just move them and you can make it look amazing and it'll add value instantly. Now, I'm not talking about adding millions of dollars, but at least in thousands and sometimes tens of thousands. So it's about, like, the way that I buy a car, property, everything that I do, for me personally, is it has to have a return and it has to go up in value, right? So if you've got that mindset every single time you go into an investment, is like, if I put $1 into this, can I get $2 back out? If I buy it for $1 and spend 50 cents, right, will I get 3? That's how you need to think. And if you don't know the answer, it's about knowing what questions to ask. You talk to the lady next door. Hey, how long have you been here? I've been here for 5 years. Oh yeah, I bought it for 700,000 5 years ago. What is it worth now? Oh, it's worth $1 million now. Okay. So, and then you ask the next neighbor, and then you look at a couple of doors down. What did you do? Oh yeah, I added the bathroom. I did this. The bank came along and valued it. So, okay. And who was your builder? Oh, this guy. And then some people pay too much for a builder. They pay way too much for a tiler. They're getting ripped. They don't understand. So you've really got to do your homework and ask the question and find out who got ripped off and what's fair and reasonable price for tiling. I can tell you now, if you've got like a, if you've got like a 3x3 room, there's only so much you can tile. If you're paying 10 grand, you're paying 10 grand too much, right? That should cost about $3,000. Done. If you're doing a kitchen, IKEA has some amazing bloody kitchens right now, which has got stone and everything, and you can do a whole kitchen for like 5.5 grand. So there's so many ways to add value in a very dense area, and stick to the neutral colors, the light colors and neutral colors. So when you walk in, lighting plays a big piece. Yeah. Landscape, you still do on a balcony. The succulents, and you guys have got that tropical climate. There's some amazing things that you can do. When people walk in, they go, wow, this looks amazing. Great bathroom, your timber flooring. You can do all that in a little apartment. It's all about choosing what color. And then all of a sudden, your apartment looks better than all the 5 others or 10 others in the unit, in the complex. Yours is going to go for the higher price. So it's just about that. So that's how you deal with density and how you increase value on a product. It's the same fundamentals.
I think that's really good advice, man. I just want to point out one thing though. I can tell it's been a while since you've lived in Singapore, because you were talking about going and speaking to your neighbors and stuff and talking to them. That ain't going to happen, man. They don't talk. They won't talk to you. They won't talk to anyone. Singaporeans don't talk to each other, man. Come on now.
I get that a lot, but I'm a funny dude. I end up getting invited by, hello, auntie, and I end up chicken rice at their house, bro. I'm that kind of guy.
Maybe people just don't want to talk to you, Tone.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, it might be me, but I also know, Dave, you lived here as well. It's you too.
And next minute, I'm like at their house, like having dinner, bro. It's weirdest things happen.
Yeah, man. I think that's you, dude. I think it's because they just want to. I think maybe because you're more engaging. I just look really angry all the time. I've got male resting bitch face. So like they don't invite me. They're like, this guy's gonna kill me. I'm like, yeah,
this guy's gonna take. We don't have money. We don't have money. We don't have cash.
They like they put their hand on the wall. Go like, don't hurt me. I'm like, okay, all right, I see this.
Just give me the cash.
I get it. I'll just take the money. I'll take the money though.
I love it.
we actually had a few listeners submit some questions in, so I thought I'd sneak a few in there.
Go for it.
So we had one particular one asking about whether he should buy a. Yeah, he lives in an existing house and he wants to upmark. He wants to. So this guy's based in Brisbane
Yep.
and he wants to upsize. He doesn't have enough cash, but upsize he means getting a new house. Lives in an existing one, and but he doesn't have enough cash to put down a deposit for the new one. And he's asking, what's the better strategy? Should he sell his current property and use the equity to put down on the new house, or switch his existing house to an investment property and use equity there to bankroll the house he wants to buy? What do you suggest?
Okay. Again, not giving any financial advice, but in my opinion, what would Shaneal do in that case? If you don't have enough deposit, save more money. That's the first one. Because if you're trying to like juggle things, juggling things means that you're going to start juggling your finances, which means that you may go into financial hardship and have issues. So just flagging that, if that is an issue, then you need to go, you know what, I'm grateful for what I have now, but think about it in a way that if you do want to buy something else, I would look in areas where, so like obviously your blue chip areas like your Bloomberg Hawthorns, your Ascots, your Hamiltons, your Clayfields, your Albions, they're sort of like your more inner city and they're a premium price. Now, I just said earlier, there are areas where there's lots of land, and I think the question was it was more so around, should you use equity? Should you like, you know, what's a better strategy? Now, one thing that I will impart knowledge about is that try not to cross collateralize your property. Try not to get your property and use all that equity to buy the next one. What you should do is separate the property. So you get your one property sitting in on its own feet, right? On its own legs. And then when you go to buy the next property, get the deposit and keep it separate. Don't
Just
just
take more time and effort, I guess, to
more
use.
time, more effort. Like you're going to be better off in the long term, right? And I get the market's going up, but reality is you're always going to be able to find the right bargain at the right place at the right time. I did it in the height of the last boom, and people were like, there's no way you're going to be able to find the deals. But you just do. You've got to just get out there and door knock and get amongst it all and be ready to pounce when there's a deal. As soon as it comes on the market, bang, like you got to be there. You can't just go on realestate.com and just wait. Why? Because there's like 10,000 other people doing the same thing. If you keep doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, you're going to get this, you're going to be in that competitive market, right? So if you've got like all the seagulls going to this one fish and chip area and they're all flocking around here, and the smart other seagulls going over there and getting, that other seagull is going to win. You know what I'm saying? So the analogy is the same here. It's really about, again, the fundamentals is that, and the reason why you don't cross collateralize everything is because when you go to sell one, say, all that profit will then go back into the other one because you have what we call LVR. So you've always got to have a certain percentage loan value ratio so that you can sustain the loan, because the bank won't just let you have 100% money, right? Debt. So my answer to the question is all about that. I would save up more. There's always going to be a deal. I would save up more on the deposit. I wouldn't disrupt what you got going on over here, because it sounds like you do have a good property and a good positioning with lots of equity. That is the investment. Why disrupt that? That is the investment. And unless you're recycling debt, as in if you're trying to create offsets for tax reasons, then yeah, you can use the equity. But I would stay away from, I would use the equity independently and roll out a line to use that equity to then, you can look at investing and using some of that for a deposit, but don't cross collateralize it. And then look, if they need a hand with that, I can, if I know more about their situation, then I can definitely give some opinions on that. But yeah, I would definitely, and look, in relation to the new property, I would still look at getting the deposit together. And now you talked about selling the property. Look, as a rule, I don't sell property, for example, but he may. If he just wants to have that one property, but then there's pros and cons. Like the pro is that if you sell that property and there's cash in there, like as in profit, there's no tax. So you and look, there's a guy that I know who has news agencies. Every year or so, he will buy a property, do it up, sell it, and make 250K to 300 tax free, and he'll do the next one, live in it for a bit, maybe this one 2 years, sell it and make 300K, then the next one, and that's
So why is it tax free when you sell it?
because in Australia, if you're a principal, it's your principal home, you pay no tax because you're not allowed to claim anything. You can't, all of your, whenever you make a repayment into your principal home, you can't claim that because it's principal home. If it's an investment property, you can. You can claim the interest on it. That's why it's called an investment property. But if it's your owner occupied property, because you live in it and it's your owner and you occupy it, and you go to sell that property, you don't pay any tax. So that is probably the only haven that we have at in Australia, right? So I can buy a property today for $500,000, live in it for a year, and sell it for $1 million. I will not pay 500, like that profit of 500 grand. I will pay no tax on that. It's tax free. So again, if that's what you want to do, then fantastic, you can do that.
Interesting, because I remember it was Robert Kiyosaki who said that owning your own property is actually a liability, but it sounds like it can still be an asset.
Yeah, but you got to realize that Kiyosaki is talking about America. So
America's crazy, man.
The laws are different in various countries and states. Like our property laws in, like say Australia, are different in each state. As far as the way they transact. And Singapore, I'm not too sure. I mean, if you sell a principal home in Singapore, do you pay tax?
Singapore has very good tax laws, so you might, but not a lot. Singapore's taxes are awesome. I know Australia's taxes are not great. I'll just say that they're high.
Yep. So
have set up in Singapore.
Yeah, everyone loves setting up companies in Singapore. I set up my company in Singapore. Minutes, barely paid tax for the first couple of years, but I pay tax now because I don't want the IRS after me, so I pay tax now.
Oh yeah, we all do too much, but
we all pay tax. We love it. So 2 more questions from our listeners. Sorry, so the second one is it still a good time to invest in property at the moment with the view of risk of shock inflation? I mean, there's a lot of talk about the upcoming inflation doom, right? So is it still a good time to invest, or should you wait until, the expected crash happens if it does come?
Okay, so with that, it's the whole how long is a piece of string situation. Like, it's like saying, I'm going to wait for it to rain, but you still should water the garden. So at the end of the day, you got to live, right? Like, if you're a dancer, you dance. If you're a baller, you play ball. So if you want to invest, you got to invest. Now, yes, you still need to. Let's flip it. Like, if you're looking at the risk of shock inflation, right? So you still need to follow fundamental rules. So for example, you still need to make sure that the rent, if you're looking for are we talking about an investment property here or owner occupied?
They didn't specify, but I would say an investment property because they said invest in property. So.
Okay, so when we talk about inflation or what we call shock inflation, you got to really look at the economy that you're in. So are we talking about Australia or Singapore or where are we talking
Yeah,
about?
it's an
Australia.
Okay, so if you look at that, let's look at the shock issue that we just had, which is COVID. How did the government deal with COVID? It was fast. It created initiatives. It created JobKeeper. It happened overnight, and then they made the announcement, right? Now, if Australia all of a sudden had a shock inflation, it would go into a frenzy because pretty much 80% of the people would be screwed because they're living paycheck to paycheck just to pay their home loan, right?
Yep.
So they would put things in place. That's what I think personally, but I wouldn't be looking at as far as a shock inflation. You can't say, hey, I'm just not going to invest. It comes back to these fundamentals. can I afford and have serviceability on the property that I'm thinking about? Am I buying at the right price point? There's no point looking at $1 million property if you're only earning, $80,000 a year. You're only earning $80,000 a year, you should be looking at a $500,000 property. And you shouldn't be looking at blue chip areas. You should be looking. So it is all relative to your earning capacity. If you have a partner, and that could be a friend, a family member, and you want to invest together, then you can leverage the double earnings to then buy something in the current market. You can still make money. So here's an example. I've had friends where, they've gone and built these big units after all the headache and all the stress. They've walked away with, like, I'm talking stress and 3 to 4 years from start to DAs, development approvals, all the way 3 years, and then they've walked away after tax 500,000. Whereas me, I've then done 1 or 2 houses in the same time, and I've made $500,000, and that was just 2 houses. So the point is that you really need to invest, but pick the timing and make sure that you're able to service that, and more importantly, make sure that you've got the right purchase price in the first place. So when we say wait, it's more so wait for the right deal and find the right deal and be in the face of the right deal, as opposed to waiting for a shock inflation. Because if there is a shock inflation and you've made the right decision on the right purchase and it's ticked all the right boxes, regardless of what happens, you're going to be in a safer situation. And I've been in those situations where all of a sudden everything's gone up, but I've bought a house where it doesn't matter what I do, the value is so high. Worst case scenario, if I can't afford it, I'm going to make 200 grand or 100 grand. Worst case scenario is the rent's going to cover it, right? So you need to look at that. And then what are the key risks of the inflation? So what are we talking about? Food prices. The price of paint isn't going to go from $200 a 15-liter tub to $600 overnight. It's just not going to happen. Doesn't make sense. So I can tell you one thing though, timber's going up in price, and so is steel. Okay. So I'd be looking carefully at, those, the infrastructure around construction is definitely going up with the materials. So that's why it poses a question that buy an existing house, it's already there. It can earn income. Can I split it? Can I add value by buying timber and steel, but like just put a carport on or add a room? So think a bit more creative in that. So again, we're talking about inflation. It is always a good time to invest, and it is a good time based on your financial situation is the answer to that.
You make a really good point, man. Like it's sort of like what Warren Buffett says when he talks about stocks, where you look at it for the company, and if you can buy it at a good price, if it's good management, it doesn't really matter what the macroeconomic situation is. If it's a good company, it will survive through whatever times. And he said he survived through, the second, I don't know, the wars and crashes and all that. But what he cares about is the company. And he said, speaking of America, is that it's going to be fine. He's been through many presidents, and America has still survived. As long as the company is right, then it's a good investment. So the last question. So this is Brisbane focused. So sorry for our international listeners, but we will give you some really great info later. Shaneal will anyway. But this is about Brisbane again. And this person is asking, where is the best suburb to buy land where the prospect of growth in the suburb is very appealing?
Sure. So where is the best suburb to buy into a land, like as in buy land?
Yeah, I believe that's what he's asking.
Okay, so I can talk from experience here. So for example, okay, so we're just talking about macroeconomics and microeconomics. So when you're looking at macro in its all entirety, we talk about how, oh yeah, the prices are really high and it's really difficult to get in. However, when you're looking at microeconomics, you're looking into various areas. There are areas right now that are quite affordable still and have lots of room to grow. And those areas are still, there are some amazing buys in like Cornubia, Logan, Shayla Park, Fitzgibbon is another area. Newport is another one that's popped up, especially for land, which is near the water. And that area is booming right now. And you can still find land for 450, 500 right now. And that's Newport. So that's kind of like your Redcliffe sort of pocket. Funnily enough, my parents have bought there, and in the space of buying off plan, they like the land is just getting titles registered in August. It's already made like 40, 50K already, and they haven't even registered the land yet because of all the Melbourneites and the Sydneyites coming up to Brisbane. So I think right now, and then there's developments happening in Albany Creek. So Eaton's Hill and Albany Creek right now is very affordable. Like still right now, but it's definitely hockey sticking right now. So I'd be looking there, and don't discount buying a crappy house with some nice land. You just need to know how to negotiate the demolished company who's going to pull that down. Okay. So that is something definitely to look at. There are areas in Boondall that are really, really good. Look, literally drop a point from the city and drive out half an hour, and anything within that, just grab it. Now, let's be real here. Who really wants to go to the city anyway? Who really wants to go to the city and live right near the city? Like, we've been saying that for like 70 years. It's always been 5 minutes from the city. But no one cares. What's happening now, gentrification is now happening. Like, if you look at Stafford and Everton Park, shout out to Tim Johnson and his crew. They have developed a whole area and a precinct that's literally and sometimes busier than James Street. And this precinct is in Everton Park, which is like half an hour away from the city in the valley, right? So my point is that you're finding little, it's almost like bringing the city to the burbs, right? To the suburbs. And you're finding that in your Camp Hills, you're finding that in your Carindale areas, you're finding that in areas like Banyo. Banyo is another great area. So there's so many key pockets like that. And again, drive around. If you like it, 9 out of 10 times, someone else is going to like it, right? You start seeing a little cafe popping up, and just look for shit that you like. And if you like it, you'll feel the vibe. If it doesn't feel right, then don't buy it. So the answer to the question is, if you're finding an area that it's all 500 grand, and then all of a sudden you find something for 450, then grab it. If you find an area that everything's 700, 800, and you find it just under, then grab it. So the point is that you just got to do your homework, walk the street, get out of the car, walk the street, talk to people, ask the questions, and that's how you find the deals. Sometimes you can find a block of dirt in the middle of nowhere, all houses around, it's just sitting there, and there's tools like Price Finder and RP Data, and you can ring the owners up. Or you can jump on platforms like Patch, getpatch.com.au, which will allow you to make an offer on the property. So there's many ways to do that. But back to the question of block of land, your Newports, Stockland always has some really, really good deals. And even if you look in history, again, going back to what my parents just did, there's an article about they just set a whole record in the canal development in Kawana where they were, and that was off Stockland. And people were saying, oh, they're a bit crazy, but they bought the land, they put a house on it, and they cleared some great money, and they got a record price. And that was only sort of 4 or 5 years after the fact. So again, you just look for those same fundamentals that we spoke about earlier and apply that into the situation with land. So I've definitely rattled off definitely a few suburbs there to check out.
Yeah, excellent.
Oh, nice, man. That was completely relevant to me because I live in Singapore, but thank you. Thanks, Dave.
But very relevant to our listeners. So thanks.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. No, Shaneal, I'm joking, man. That was really, really useful.
From Singapore, let's not forget that.
Yeah, no, we should do one for Singapore where basically we're just gonna say like, just don't spend money. It's so expensive. No, but yeah, man. So I think we're gonna jump into questions about Transactor in a minute, right? But I kind of want to I have a quick question though. Are there any like innovations or anything like interesting or different happening in real estate right now that you think is something we should keep an eye on, or is something that, you know, you're really interested in, but maybe hasn't gone mainstream as yet?
Look, I think probably one of the biggest things right now, and again, it's coming back to this whole borders thing. So at the moment, if you look at the planet, the globe right now, there are big imaginary walls up, right? Like I can't just automatically get on the plane and then fly straight to to Jamaica or have a holiday in Japan right now. It's just, unless I want to half my holiday will be spent in quarantine, right? So what I like the idea of is being able to invest with cross borders. So which brings me to a platform that I really like that we've actually partnered with called ContraCoin, which allows you to buy anywhere on the planet using a token or crypto, and allows you to buy anywhere. So check them out. It's a ContraCoin. If you just Google ContraCoin, you'll find it. And so I think that's quite interesting because it means that I can buy property in Miami if I wanted to. So if there's a market that's depressed at the moment that I find, and I've done my homework means you've spent, at least 200 hours studying it, talking to people on the ground, looking at real transactions, as in people that have actually done the transaction, and find out how that what the outcome was of that transaction. Was it good or bad? And then making a decision, then doing your due diligence. And so I like the fact that, like, if I want to buy in Fiji, or if I want to buy in Malaysia or wherever it is, that I will be able to do so. So ContraCoin does it. So I think that's pretty clever. And I can also use my crypto, as long as I can convert it to a stable coin. I'll be able to do that. So I think that's pretty cool, being able to invest and buy property through a token, and that's legitimate, like buying the property literally. So I think that's pretty cool. The other thing is obviously the use of blockchain and smart contracts, which has been happening for some time now. And the same way that we can use a phone and do like your Apple Pay and go tick, okay, I now own, that item from the shop, is the same way that you can do that with a property. So this whole real-time purchase, like, so if you say that you want to sell your property and I want to buy it, I literally go, okay, well, let's do the deal. And I go, tink, it's done. The only thing that we've got to work out is the logistics for you getting out of the house so I can move into the house or take over that house very quickly. And that's something that we can do on our platform, Transactor, for example. So I think that's quite clever. So as far as other technologies that are out there, there's a couple of technologies in the States that we've seen called, I think one's called Door, which essentially the platform. So if you think of like Property Guru, I think, what's it called in Singapore? The your guys
Property Guru. It's called Property Guru.
Yeah. So just imagine Property Guru, instead of just listing the property, that platform Property Guru actually buys the house.
Okay, I see that.
Literally buys the property and goes, you don't have to paint it, do anything. We're just going to buy it off you. And you just agree, and you basically either agree or you don't. They go, look, your property is probably, after you paint and do everything, it'll be $1 million, but we're going to give you today, we're going to give you 960,000. Just get it, just walk away. And you literally go, okay, here's the keys, take the money, you're out. It's on them now to do it up and do everything. And sometimes they get as little as $1,000 per return, but it's still a transaction after all expenses. So it's called Open Door. So I think that's pretty interesting that a portal will actually buy the whole property, fix it up, and put it back on the market. So I think that's pretty much on the edge, and I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's super crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's crazy. And look, as far as anything else, I think, you only have to look around you, and banking's getting heavily disrupted right now. The way that we go for loans, I believe, is going to change. Like, so for example, right now, real-time application process. So what that means is that if you opt in, you can have your bank account, and instead of me going, hey, I'm ready to get a loan, what do I need to do? It'll just say, by the way, guys, you've been saving well, and guess what? today you can buy a $500,000 property. Congratulations. If you want to do it, pick up your credit pass, go do these 3 things and sign these documents and you're good to go. So it'll automatically tell you that you can get the loan. And then more time goes and it goes, hey, last time we approved 500, you're now approved for 700. So that kind of technology is here now. That's coming through. So it's this whole automated process of approving or pre-approvals on a property before you even go to it. Like, it just allows you to just go about your day, or it may even say to you, get rid of the Netflix account. You're going out to too many restaurants and you're spending too much money. Chill back a bit and save more. And then we'll give you a loan, but it's going to be another 3 months because you need better behavior on your spending habits.
Okay.
So that kind of stuff is really cool because it's almost like your AI financial coach, right?
Yeah. So you'll get a notification. Hey, you kind of overspent on OnlyFans. Why have you signed up to another OnlyFans account?
Exactly, or buying too much stuff. Yeah. Which
Well, that's good. And I think Shaneal is underselling his own platform, Transactor. So we'll put a link to the show notes, but it's an amazing platform. Like the other ones you're describing, it helps you really manage and oversee your property transaction really quickly, and world record speeds, actually, like 6 seconds or something. So it's amazing stuff. So go check it out too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much on that. Yeah.
So check it out, Transactor app. That's it from a real estate, from the real estate side of things.
Maybe we can just do like a short bit about Transacting, man, because I think that's really interesting because that's kind of your main thing right now, yeah?
Yes, brother. It is.
Yeah. So like when we jump into them, and I'd really like to find out a little bit more, but I don't think we touched on it because we mentioned that you kind of went through an IPO, right? A year ago.
So look, how that went down was, yes, a company that I started with 2 other guys going back probably 8 years ago now. It went from one stage to the next stage, and then we did an exit, which ended up resulted in an IPO. That's correct. And in that process, there's so many moving parts, but it was a finance compliance platform that got bought up and IPO'd. So that was a cool sort of outcome to be involved in, see what plays out there. And it always has to make sense, right? So whatever it is if you look at, we talk about an exit, and an exit could be passing on a property that you've owned for 50 years to your kids, and then they then sell it. Or so again, when we talk about an exit, it could stay in the family, or it could be you part sell it, and the same thing with a property. So and the reason why we have an exit strategy is that in case of something happening, when you exit, there is still a sum of funding or money that is there, capital, that you can then call upon when you need it, right? And regardless of what we say about anything, at the end of it, whether it's shares or cryptos, or life is all about creating options. This is one of the biggest lessons that I've ever learned, is how do you create options? Now, you have some people go, oh, I don't want to drive there and I don't want to do this. But at the end of the day, you got to create options, because if you don't, you're going to be bankrupt and stuck, right? So as soon as you get money in, you need to invest that and create more options for that, what we call the rainy day, right? So that's essentially, like, every single time when there is some funny, yes, you pay your tax, but you should always look at investing that to create options for later down the track. So let's say your bank account starts getting diminished and you're having a really bad month and something's going on. Maybe you got some shares that you could sell that, or maybe you've got a property there. So if you keep creating options for yourself that is more rigid, that can compound and create, that can appreciate, then that's going to work in your favor. So, I've mixed it. I've mixed my options. For example, I've got some bit of shares, I've got a bit of Bitcoin, I've got some property, I've got some cars, some house, so you mix up to create options. And then when something happens, then you can kind of sell that down a bit, get some money, and then try and make another maneuver here. And that's the process, right? How can you keep generating sort of revenue? So options, like definitely, that's one of the lessons I've learned in investing in general. Just wanted to share that because I think it's really important. When you get into, we always talk about the happy path, but when there's an unhappy path, when there's shit going down and it's not going so well, that's when you're like, oh, I'm so glad that I bought that property way back, or I'm so glad I did that. And that's where that option comes in that you can call upon, and that will back you up. So yeah.
So rather than just putting all the eggs in one basket, like having a job and that's it, no other assets.
Mate, if you're earning, like, even if you're earning $1,000, like, I would be putting 250 away into something. Get it going, get it to work. You know what I mean? Like look at the elephant in the room, man. Apple. Like, is it going to be around for another 5 years, 10 years? Arguably, yes. And is it a high price? Yes, it is, but it's gonna keep going up. Look at Amazon. You can invest in it, you know, like there's certain companies that you can invest in. So it's absolutely, and you actually will own a part of that company. You actually own a part of it. As soon as you invest in it, you actually own a part of that company.
Yeah.
But people don't realize. It's not that you're investing in it and they own it. As soon as you invest in that company, you actually own a piece of that. You know, my parents taught me, like, when I was a kid, they're like, you know, we've invested, and I'm like, oh, what does that mean? And I was like 5 or something, and I said, well, let's say you put $500 into a company. It means that you may own the window of that company, and it stuck with me, right? So you might own that window that's $500 of that big skyscraper, but that's your $500, and you own that window, and without that window, you know what I mean? So it was, it's quite a cool sort of analogy that they gave to me. That stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
true.
cool, man. I'm gonna own one share of Apple, then find Tim Cook and just say, like, what the hell is wrong with your products?
I agree, man.
Stupid iOS ecosystem. Stupid.
I agree. They lock you in, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
No,
Android
Tony
all the
hates
way.
Apple. I love
Android,
Apple.
Android all the way.
And
No
as
way.
you were talking about Warren Buffett earlier about that economical moat, right?
Mm.
And they lock you in, like all of your photos and your data and everything sitting in that cloud of theirs, that iCloud. You know, try and pull that out. That's just annoying, right? Try and switch to, that's how they lock you in, man.
That's probably one reason why Berkshire, Warren Buffett's company, invested in Apple. I think they own a 5% stake or something like that.
Exactly.
Before we close the real estate part, yeah, as Tony said, we'd love to talk about Transactor a little bit. What can you tell the audience about Transactor a little bit more?
Sure. So anytime that you're buying or selling real estate, it is a very, very laborious exercise. You've got many moving parts. You've got the buyer, the seller, the conveyancers, the lawyers, the financier, the property developers, the building and pest inspectors, all these parts. Long story short, it brings it all together into a visual timeline so you can track exactly where the deal is at and then transact it to settling it, right? So it takes you on that journey from start to finish, and it does it with ease. And we make property transactions really simple. We simplify it for everybody. And it does a countdown. It says, you know, in 5 days time, you need your finance done. It reminds you, and it sets it off. So it's the same way as like when you're catching an Uber or ordering a Domino's pizza, it'll tell you when it's cooking and where it's up to. So there's no surprise. You can track the progress of where it's at. I mean, if you're tracking a $5 pizza, of course you need to know where your $1 million property is up to, right? It's a no-brainer. So that's Transactor. That's how it works.
Yeah, so go check it out. We'll put a link in the show notes, but it's transactorwrap.com, and you get a free demo, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Transactorapp.com.
Sweet.
Nice, man. I think that's going to be something really cool. I don't want to take up too much of your time, man, but I really want to kind of tap into your knowledge as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's kind of, I mean, you're very successful. I'm not upset at all. I mean, it's bullshit, but I'm not upset at all. I don't hate the fact that you're very successful. I just think that it's unfair. But moving past that, right? Can you tell us, man, like what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made though? Like, because a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs, because both Dave and I are in the entrepreneurial space. So like, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made that you kind of like, you can laugh at it now, but like back then?
First of all, success, let's define success. Okay. Success is different to everybody has their own version, but success to me, getting older now, is being able to breathe, have two hands, arms, legs, walk, have a heart, eyes. That is amazing. That is success in itself, right? So I think that is a beautiful thing to be able to do that, because that means that you've got that health. Without that, you literally have nothing. You do not want to be the richest person in the grave, right? So let's start off with that success.
I think Tong wants to be.
Yeah, in Australia, we have a thing here called the tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
for sure.
like when anyone, it's okay for your peers to do, like, you got to be in the same, but as soon as one head starts popping up and really growing its success, bang, we chop them down. That's why it's called tall poppy. When someone comes up, bang, you chop them down. But the good news is that I was in one of my vehicles, and I had a younger cat go, "Hey man, I love your car, congratulate," like great, and like cheering it on. Whereas sometimes you have opposite, where people are like, "Oh, you wanker," and like, you don't even know who I am, you know what I mean? So the tall poppy syndrome is something that we need to definitely celebrate success. And there is a beautiful book called Visualize, which basically talks about savoring. There's an actual terminology called savor, right? And in the book, they talk about how when you play golf, for example, and you have a really bad shot, we go, damn, and we dwell on the bad shot, and we keep playing through the bad shot, where it should be the opposite. We do a good shot. We need to celebrate the good shot and go, that was amazing, and then savor the moment and work out how we did that good shot so we get more good shots. Now, relate that back to life. When you have a win, you need to celebrate the win, get that brain and get that hit going with all the chemicals coming out, that dopamine effect, and that oxytocin effect that you get from, like, say if it's your client, you're closing a deal or whatever it is. We need to savor that and get that going. But success to me is not, the like the one single thing. It's a continual thing where you're able to do that. And you say, like, some of the mistakes. Now, on the flip side of that, so here's one of the key things that I personally say is that if you do something wrong once, it's a learning experience. If you do it twice, then it's a mistake. And then you should say to yourself, well, I don't make mistakes. Get what I'm saying? You do it once, it's a learning experience. So you've learned and you go, okay, I shouldn't do that. Okay, great. So probably the number one mistake that I have ever made, and this is a mistake, where I have seen the vision and I know how it was going to play out. I can see the end product, and I showed it to somebody prematurely who didn't have the same mindset as a fellow creative. So, for example, in the music game, one of the biggest no-nos that you do in music, and this is going back in the day, is to show your A&R manager a demo where it's not quite there yet. They get stuck on that and they go, no, it's a shit song. Whereas you know that it was a hit, but you showed it to them too early. And that's why it's important to, so that was a mistake. So unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, when we look at a market or your peers, or if you show the good, shiny, amazing product, you put all the work into it and you go, here it is. And it has that effect of, oh, wow, that's amazing. It actually looks better, feels better, and has more belief than something that's only halfway there. So if I showed you a car or a house, I'm like, here's a house, the tiles aren't in there, it's looking a bit rustic, it's looking a bit funky. Here it is. And you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. But if I showed it to you in 3 months' time, where it's all done with the furnishers in there, the dinner's on the table, the candles are going, the swimming pool's full, the music's going, then obviously it's going to look amazing, right? So my biggest mistake that I've ever made in my time has been showing people something prematurely, because they can't see the end product, the end vision, right? And so it only takes a certain time. Whereas I let people show me stuff, and because I've been a creator my whole life, I can actually see the vision. I'm like, I get it. So that would be one major thing, and it takes a certain person to capture that. So I would say I would double down on that. That's my thing.
Got it. Okay. I mean, Dave knows a lot about being premature in a lot of stuff, so it's good.
I, it's actually it's a big problem of mine. Oh, it hurts. Why did he bring it up? It's a painful thing, man. So
Own it, bro.
own it. All right, I'll own it. Oh man. Painful memories, painful recent memories. So, um, being an entrepreneur, doing everything you're doing, obviously you've done a lot. And I think a problem a lot of people have, I think everyone has, is time management, right? How do you, obviously you have your own vision, you have your own goals in life. How do you manage everything, and how do you stay productive and efficient while accomplishing all these things at once?
Um, it's look, the bottom line is I started really young, really young. I always knew what I wanted to do growing up, and that's okay if you don't as well. That's fine. But one thing me personally is that I'm definitely not lazy. The lazy gene is probably your enemy. So I mean, my regular time to wake up is like 4:30, quarter to 5, and I'm talking like I'm fully asleep, and then bang. And then I just go, oh, what's the time? Bang. Oh, it's 4:30. It's quarter to 5. So that's when it starts. But I'm not on my phone. I will literally get up, and the first thing that I do is kind of like, like a bit of a stretch, wash my face, and then I'll go straight to the water, squeeze a whole lemon and have like a whole glass of water and smash 2 glasses down. I'm hydrated. I have more energy than anyone. Like, I don't drink coffee. I know it sounds weird, but that is my coffee. And most people wake up dehydrated, so they need the coffee to do the spike, and they're dehydrating themselves. So I would urge everyone to at least try that. And that sets me up, and then I'll get out of the house. Like, I'll basically go hit the gym, and then I'll sit down. I've got my certain spot that I go to, and I'll close my eyes and I'll meditate and visualize everything. The sun comes up. Then I'll come back. I'll smash out some emails, like the important ones. Bang, 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 bang. And set everything up. And by that time, it's like literally 6:30 or 7, and I've done more things than everyone's, and people are still sleeping. And then my little baby wakes up, who's like 1 and a bit, and then you got the daycare thing, take him to daycare, come back, and then you smash out your day of work. So time management is so important. So what I do, I have a diary, and I do, what are the 3 key things I need to do for the business? And what are 3 key things that I need to do for myself? And I do that every day. I literally write them down. So that's what I do. So the 3 key things for myself was meditate, do some exercise, and maybe read a book, like a couple of pages. And that's it. That's a quick win, right? The 3 things for business might be set up have a meeting with David, and go through some content, ring 20 clients up, and at least close 2 deals. That might be the 3 things, right? And then the next day I'll have another 3. Now, if you look at that over a week and then a month, you're doing a lot of shit. And if I've done all that really well, I earn the right to then chill out a little bit on the Friday. Now, sometimes I'll do nothing, and I'll go and do one thing, but it'll move the needle big. And that might be chilling out, having a think about things. And I have a thinking chair. I have a thinking pen and a thinking book, and I'll put that into my diary, and no one can book that. And I'll sit down on that, and I'll think, what do I need to do? And just chill out. And sometimes I feel guilty. I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything. But then it'll be one deal that I've done that sets up the whole month, for example. So again, it's not about being busy. I hate the word busy. Anyone can be busy. I like the word productive. How was your day? It was productive. Was it really busy? No, I don't do busy. I do productive. So that's me personally. I'm not interested in busy. Anyone can be busy. You can be busy freaking weeding, right? And it'll do nothing for your career right now. But yeah, that's so it's about being productive. So it's everyone has the same 24 hours, and you've heard the cliche, it's what you decide to do with it. And you got to get away from those distractions. So that's what's up.
OnlyFans, Tang.
That's how I stay productive, man. Just through OnlyFans, being both a creator and consumer of content.
OnlyFans needs to sponsor us. We do so many OnlyFans jokes. They need to sponsor us.
Yeah, and we talk about OnlyFans a lot, man. Yeah. So in this short podcast that we did together, Shaneal, you're one of the most positive people I know. Actually, I know Dave said the same thing as well to me before that. You're really, really positive. As two people, and I don't want to speak on Dave's behalf, but he is extremely negative as a person. And I'm not the most positive person in the world either, right? Like what's kind of your secret to staying and achieving like consistent positivity?
It's absolutely to do with the architecting your surroundings and who you hang out with around you. So that means choosing the right partner. And I did say choose the right partner because it's all a choice. And it's got to be reciprocal. So, you know, really looking at like do not do things that don't make you happy, for example. And sometimes you can't choose your family, right? And so, you know, it comes down to your upbringing as well. So I mean, I'm very blessed to have a very positive family. I mean, my parents don't come over and say, oh, this has gone wrong and that's bad. And even with the little things that we had as kids growing up, there was always food on the table, and there was always a shelter, you know what I mean? So I think positivity comes from being able to breathe, and obviously, you know, having a great supportive partner and an amazing, you know, like my son is like my purpose, and having a business that is very complex in the sense that it's always a challenge. It's always challenging me, and it's, you know, we become the convincer of our products, and then we're like, you know, then it's, you know, you wear many hats. So the positivity comes from, what are your choices? Be sad and down, or be positive and up. And I love meeting people and helping them in the sense that, and being positive and shedding that light. And look, some people kind of go, man, this guy's always happy. What's the deal? And the deal is because I don't give a shit what people think. And I'm my own in my own skin. If you don't like it, then that's on you. That's your own insecurity. That's it. I just tell it like it is, and as long as I'm not hurting anyone in the process, and I'm putting making an impact in the sense that creating something that's actually going to help people. And that's why the reason I chose what I've done with Transactor is it's actually helping people with financial literacy, with how to do it. Some people don't even know what a conveyancer is, for example, and it's helping. It's a help guide and helping with the journey. And that doesn't just stop with Transactor and property. There's bigger things. So I obviously chose shelter, but you know, I'm wanting to help with this food supply, like help with quality of food supply, for example. I am doing another project about that as well, which is an agricultural pay, which is helping create the best possible soil to bring the best possible plants. So I'm doing some automation in that space as well, and I'm advising a company. So I've got passions in food as well, because food, you are what you eat. So I'm very passionate about food and agriculture, uh, and sustainability, and obviously youth, like what our children are going to be coming into. So, you know, I think as humans, you know, being positive is a necessity. It's if you think negative, you're going to be negative and you're going to get sick. If you think positive, it's going to help you evoke positivity, and you'll feel a lot better. If you feel better, it creates the energy that you need to get through your day. You know, there's enough negativity in the world, so we should just keep it going.
Definitely.
So
For sure.
that's how I stay positive, man.
No, that was really good, man. And there's so many things you said that I want to dive into, but I'm mindful that we're selfishly taking up your time. But before we kind of wrap up, I really want to. I think we need to know more about your music career, man. Like Tone was just sharing me one of your music videos earlier. You know, That's probably one of the first ways I got to know about you. I did a bit of research about you, and I listened to you know, a track, an album you just dropped. So, can you tell us more about your music career, how it started, what's going
Oh,
on now, how can people listen to you?
well, I got a funny story for you guys. Actually, for the Singaporeans and the Malays out there. So, who remembers Tower Records and HMV back
Oh
in the day?
yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure,
sure.
man. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go, man. There's your HMV
Oh,
record.
nice.
When was
Right.
that?
Look, that little bad boy there was what's that? 2005.
So for those of you who are listening, check it out on YouTube, or it's basically Shaneal showing us his album that he sold in HMV. Is that your first album?
No, that was I've done a few prior to that, but then
Yeah.
this is one of our vinyls that we did. That was 2002, and like I basically that was when the record industry was booming. But I got a funny story about the music. So we all know about Malaysia and even in Singapore in those early days. Now I'm talking sort of 97, 98, around that time when there was a lot of piracy. Who
Mhm.
remembers that? Like with the
Yeah.
record. So
I never did that.
my trick was essentially, I was like, damn, that's my record. And there's like these, they're being sold as pirates. So what we ended up doing, and that was like Universal Republic. And we started seeing our records pirated. And they were selling for like what should be $15. They were selling for like $10. So then what we did is we got the same stock and we sold it for $8 cheaper than the pirating guys, but it was the original stuff, but in the black market. You know what I mean? It was hilarious. So we undercut the pirators with our own stock, and that's one of the strategies that we used. And that was like, you know, we toured Johor Bahru, Malacca, all through Malaysia, obviously Singapore, and you know that was when Zouk, Venom, and all these places we would perform at.
Zook is still around, right?
Yeah, I
Still-
hear that.
Yeah, Zook's still there. Zook's still there. Damn, man, you're bringing back stuff from the past, though. That's interesting, man.
And that's when
you get going places where people are pirating your music. That's a good sign.
yeah, no, that was good fun. But yeah, look, from the days of like from UK to LA, I've written and produced, you know, everything from, you know, your John Legends who have come through the studios. And you guys remember War, like the classic, you know, what is it good for? War, you know, the song out of
Oh
Rush Hour.
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, Lonnie Jordan. So, you know, working with like the greats like that, George Benson, and so many great acts in music. But you know, I'm still writing and producing, but the industry has totally changed now. It's just flipped. But you know, it was a great time in the music game, you know, coming through back in the day. And I love Singapore, man. One of the things I miss about Singapore is the people and the food. Oh man, the chicken rice, hell. I remember going to Kopitiam, underneath Kopitiam,
Yeah.
and you had those freaking what was it, the aquariums with frogs in it.
Oh yeah. They would the live seafood places and the live food places. Yeah.
Yeah, like even the stingrays, like
Yeah.
the chili stingray,
Oh, Stingray's good. I miss Stingray.
crabs. Oh my god! You know what? I'm hungry right now. But the best fried rices with the you know, you got the auntie that would like get the fried rice, and then they'd have like the vinegar, the chili vinegar.
Oh yeah. It's really good. No, Singapore does
Man,
food
that was-
well, man. They're gonna love you for saying that. By the way, all the Singapore listeners gonna be like, "Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about."
Yeah. And you know what? It was funny because at Copperton there's that juice bar. And I remember we used to go there religiously. And I'm like, this is a great idea. We should take it back to Australia. And literally 3 years later, this lady built Boost Juice. You know Boost Juice?
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah,
guys have that.
yeah. Bush juice is huge in Singapore. Yeah.
Bro, you guys did it before anyone. Like you guys were like doing the juicing thing way back before anyone.
Yeah.
And I remember this one it was hilarious. And it was like this Italian joint, Chinese joint, and an Indian joint. And I'm like, yo, can I have a pizza? And then the next day I come in and I go, oh, I want a butter chicken. The same dude was serving me, and I'm like, what's going on here? And it was like a different front, but
Oh,
the
yeah,
kitchen was
same
the
guy.
same kitchen. That freaks me out. Like
Oh yeah,
that was some crazy
Singapore
times.
Singapore pioneered cloud and shared kitchens before it was a thing, but they just did it to save money, man.
Big time. Muhammad Sultan Road. We used to like, because when I first got there, one of the funniest stories is that the first thing I did was I bought a mountain bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went into what's your guys' supermarket called again?
Shing's
By the
fair price,
groceries?
fair
What's it called?
price, fair price, or cold storage.
Cold storage.
Yeah.
So here's me coming from Australia. I'm like, I need some fruit. I grab all the grapes, bang, grabbing like all these fruits, fresh fruits, weighing it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is cheap, great. Over here we do per kilo.
Yeah.
You guys were doing like per 100 grams or something, right?
Yeah.
So I got the bill. I'm like, $500? Okay, I need to start taking shit off. I need to start putting stuff back. That was my first ever time in Singapore. And yeah, it was hilarious.
So did you
I was
think
like,
it was
okay,
like $3,
we need to.
$3 a kilo of grapes, man? Nah, dude, it's expensive.
Yeah, I'm like,
as
yeah,
shit.
this is all of that. Oh, bro, it is so expensive.
Well,
And
you,
back then there was a California gym.
Oh yeah, California Gold, right?
Yeah, that's it. So that was our local, and then Studio East.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
used
I
to
know.
hang out with what's his name? The Jackie Chan. We used to hang out with him, and then we go across to Bud's. I don't know if you remember that show. I used to buy all my clothes from Bud's. That was a cool spot.
No, that one I'm not aware of.
And Papa Joe's, man, Papa John's.
Yeah. Papa Joe's, yeah, I know that one.
Papa Joe's, yeah, and Wins used to sing there. He was a great artist, and we used to jump on the band and sing with him as well. And shout out to Wins and Ivory and Michael Black. Yeah, man. So those were the days.
man, you had a much more glamorous life in Singapore than I did in my first 3 months. Like first 3 months, I got a second job. I left my internship, got a job. I didn't get paid for 3 months. I kept thinking I was going to get paid. And invited my cousin over. We went out partying, but I was out of money. So one memorable night was when me, Tung, and my cousin just shared one beer because neither of us had money. So we just shared one beer together. And this girl walked up to us. What the hell? How poor are you guys? I don't know why Tung couldn't buy a beer. You're just being stingy. We just shared one beer between us. That was a low point in my life.
Yeah, I could actually afford more than one beer, but I was just looking at you guys and I'm like, all right, I'll share a beer with you guys. I didn't even know why I did it, man. Oh, that was.
But you know what? I would say Singapore, like, man, you guys are very hard workers. Like, I remember, like, even when I wanted to get something printed, I was like, yo, we need to get some covers printed. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, yeah, man, there's a dude. I'm like, I ring the number. It's open at 8:00. Yeah, don't worry, man. Come down. I'll be ready in an hour. I'm like, that's so dope. Like, you do that in Brisbane. Like, yeah, man, I can get it ready for you. When can I get it ready for you? Oh, man, it'll be a couple of days, bro. I'm like, you suck. So then what I do here is I go to the Singapore of Brisbane, which is Sunnybank, and there's a dude that's always open, and he'll do it for me. You know?
Yeah, man. When I visited Dave in Brisbane a little while back, and the first thing that struck me, I think at like 5:30, everything was closed. I was just because 5:30, everything in Singapore is open. If it's closed, that means there's a bomb or something. Yeah, in Brisbane, everything was closed.
Yeah, that's definitely changed now. Like right now, like my gelati guy, which I'm gonna go to after this, he's gonna be open till 10.
Nice.
So I'll go there. And then we've got another spot, the Creole Kitchen. Shout out to those guys. They're in Spring Hill and they're open till midnight. And all the chefs go there. And their menu is massive. And they do like the desserts and every type of food. It's called the Creole Kitchen. It's amazing. Then there's the Carlisle Hotel. Like, there's a lot of spots now, man.
Nice.
A lot of spots now in Brisbane. And what's crazy, you've got the Gold Coast, Noosa, and Brisbane, and it's slowly all joining. And it's like it's gonna be like the Miami. It's ridiculous. And then you got all the islands, and you got Hamilton Island. You got Tangalooma, where Pirates of the Caribbean was shot. I mean, it's pretty dope here. You know, I do remember the mosquitoes in Sentosa Island.
Oh, the mosquitoes haven't gone away, man. They're still there. They're everywhere. And I think we're coming to the end. Dave, you got any more questions for Shaneal?
No, I won't steal any more of your time. If people want to, follow more about you and your work and Transactor, where should they go?
Yeah, man, just jump on the gram. Like, just socially on the gram. So that's just Shaneal and then the number 6 and the letter S. So that's Shaneal 6S. If you want to follow the journey on Transactor, just Transactor _ app. That's us on the gram. And hit me up on LinkedIn. Anything professional, hit me up on LinkedIn. It's just Shaneal Sharma on LinkedIn. Add me, and yeah, we can talk. And if you guys need any help, man, I'm always available. I'm
Nice,
all about
man.
it.
Nice. I'm gonna just keep on like sending you messages asking you for money, man. It's gonna be great.
Oh, gee, man, I co-invest as well. So you
Oh no,
guys
I'm
got
not.
some-
I just want a gift, man. It's different. It's gifts.
Right.
Donations and gifts, man. Different.
No, but it was really insightful, Shaneal. I think we'll learn. I learned a lot. I'm sure listeners will learn a lot. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, man.
It was
It was
Appreciate
really
it,
good,
man.
valuable.
Having me on the show. It's amazing.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Dave, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for listening, everyone. Once again, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Just hit up Business Over Drinks and like and subscribe us on your favorite podcast listener. All your comments and your likes and subscribes, it goes a long way. It helps us invite more guests like Shaneal. So thank you very much, guys. See you in the next episode.